Hello, YouTube. All right, let's go live on Instagram. We're going to talk about standards, being high achieving, something I spoke about on a podcast interview today. Hello, Instagram. So, this morning, I got interviewed for a podcast episode. I'm so excited for this to come out because it come out because this is something like a topic that we went into that I kind of want to share now because it's also come up in my client calls today, which is always a synchronicity. It always happens. I'll be on a podcast interview or I'll be speaking to a friend, and then the same themes will show up in my client calls, and it's quite incredible. And this conversation was around high achieving, ambitious women, ambitious people. And one of the biggest things that I've noticed with the women that I work with is there's no shortage in being high achieving, in being success driven, in having ambition, having a big goal, having a big desire. That's the women that I work with. That's the women that I speak to. There is no shortage of that. But what I do see, and where I do see a disconnect, is when their standards are low and they don't have high standards. And I know as a high achiever, ambitious woman, that sometimes it can be like, well, I am ambitious. Like, of course I have high standards. Of course I want these things in life, like whatever that looks like, whether it's the way relationships are, the way you make money, the amount of money that you have, what you materialistically have, your health, the experiences, whatever you perceive is when you are creating your standards. But in fact, I see so many high achieving women fall short of actually putting their standards high enough to push them to the trajectory of getting what they actually desire and actually living in this vision that they have for themselves. And I just got a call from one of my business clients, and the thing that I was discussing with her is having a look at and understanding that you can have this big vision, you can have this big understanding of what you want to create in your business, in your life, but unless your standards are matched with that vision, you are always going to fall short. That's kind of like looking at it as an energetic ceiling and looking at it as somewhere that you keep repeating. So what I want you to do, and I kind of discuss this in the podcast, but it's not coming out for a while, so I'll share it here, is start to reflect on your past 90 days. Look at what has happened in the past 90 days, the past 3 months. I always think 90 days is like a nice, juicy bit of data that you can use for your life or your business to understand exactly where you're at. If things haven't exponentially grown and you feel like you're doing everything, you feel like you're putting in the work, you're putting in the time, you're putting in the effort, what that says to me is your standards are not matching your vision. They are not high enough, which means you aren't pushing yourself. And I don't mean pushing yourself in a dysregulated way where you have to work hard, where you're getting burnt out. I don't mean push yourself in a way where it becomes tiring and you become resentful and you become fearful. What I mean is that you're actually tweaking all of the things that you are doing. You are actually self-reflecting. And what most, again, another thing that high achievers don't do enough of is self-reflect at least once a week. Every Sunday, look at your week, whether you journal it, voice message yourself, write it out, text it to yourself, send it to your mentor, your coach, but actually self-reflect. What works really well in this past week? How can I amplify that in the next week? How can I 10x that in the next week to make it even better? But what didn't work well? And most people, and this is where we fall into the trap of just only being self-aware. So something I teach my clients is to transition from self-awareness into conscious awareness. Conscious awareness basically, so let me give you two examples. Self-awareness is when you can say, I know that I am procrastinating and putting off this project that I know is going to make me more money because I'm tired, or I have a fear of failure, or I have a fear of being judged. That's self-awareness. And that's what most people pride themselves on, is like, I'm aware of what I'm doing. I'm aware of my patterns and my behaviors. What I want you to start to move into is actually conscious awareness, why you are doing that thing, what it unconsciously is saying to you. And this comes back to what I was saying about standards, is people may have a big, ambitious dream, desire, goal, vision that they're heading towards, but their standards are as high as their unconscious belief patterns, their unconscious identity. The way you perceive yourself will create everything that you are currently seeing and feeling and experiencing in life. If you have a vision to make X amount of dollars in the month, but you perceive yourself as someone who is struggling and it's living paycheck to paycheck and is poor in a poverty mindset, that is where you are meeting yourself repeatedly every single month. That is your energetic ceiling. That is the standard you've set for yourself. And it changes. Like, how do we raise our standards? We get better at what we're doing with our day-to-day behaviors. We get better at the way that we're speaking to ourselves. We get better at the way that we perceive ourselves when we put ourselves out on social media, when we look in the mirror, when we're having conversations with friends. We raise our boundaries with our friends and our family. We actually look at the person that we are wanting to become, the person we're wanting to step into, that vision for ourselves, the highest vision, and we say, what are the standards? It can be as simple as that. What are the standards that that person has right now that I need to step into and I need to raise myself? And most people are only meeting themselves at where they are unconsciously programmed and have been unconsciously programmed for the longest time. And this is why I'm saying it is so, so important that you are looking at the past 90 days and understanding, where am I actually programmed right now? What is it actually saying for me? What does it actually look like for me? Because when you can understand that, or when you can see that, when you are able to consciously become aware at what the programming is, at you like every movement, what fear is it actually it's not inspired, what's the word I'm looking for, what fear is it programmed, what is motivating, what's the fear? Is it the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of judgment, the fear of responsibility? How is that driving every motive, every response? If you were constantly being motivated by fear, you were never going to get the results you want, because fear, the results that you desire as a high achieving, ambitious individual are inspiring, expansive, feel good in the body. They're not restrictive. They're not fear based, right? They don't make you feel constricted. And so, starting to look at your standards, your vision and your standards, if you're not where you want to be, or you don't see yourself incrementally moving towards that every 90 days, like you can't see this change and it feels like you're forever climbing the summit, I need you to be very honest with yourself at what your vision is and what your standards are. And your standards are a reflection of your unconscious programming, which has created your personality, which is the way that you perceive yourself. It is your level of consciousness. And until you subconsciously rewire the way you perceive yourself, until you subconsciously rewire the way you perceive yourself in this world and the way that you are creating success, you are never going to reach that vision, or it's going to feel like a grind, or you're going to see a small amount of results, which will give you a dopamine hit, and you'll still be functioning in the way that you always have. I think most of the time high achievers don't progress in the way they want to, or they feel it's too hard, or they stay in this pity party because they actually don't want to be honest about what's driving them. And I guarantee what's driving you is probably fear-based. It's not expansive, because if it's expansive, if it's inspiring, you are going to see progression. You are going to incrementally see progression. But if it is fear-based, if you unconsciously are motivated by this fear of judgment or this fear of rejection, and it's not moving you in the way, and you hit your standards there, it doesn't matter how much you try. It doesn't matter how much you invest in a coach or mentor. It doesn't matter how much time you put into something. You will not move and it will not change. And so the core message of this live is to start to tap into, what are your standards? How can you raise them? How can you do better and meet yourself where you are? On the podcast, it was kind of an example that was given was, you want $100,000 month, you want to travel all the time, yet your standard is only posting when you feel like it and only responding to DMs when you can be bothered. That's just not good enough, right? See how the vision, the long-term vision, the ambitious vision does not match how you are perceiving yourself, how you are seeing yourself, what the identity is that you want to step into, which means your standards are here. Your standards aren't raised. And this is something, if you're resonating with this and you're like, okay, I need to work on pushing up my standards and being able to understand the fear that's currently driving me, highly, highly recommend coming into Identity Evolution. We start next week. It is a program that goes into how to subconsciously rewire your programming, your identity, and the way that you perceive yourself. Because when you perceive yourself differently, you will experience different results. And that's what we want, right? As high achievers, we have big ambitious goals. We have these big visions for our life and where we want to head. To be able to do that, you need to see yourself as someone differently, but rewire at the root that you are actually someone differently. So if you resonated with this, if there's something you want to work on, highly recommend YouTube, show notes below. On Instagram, you can send me a DM or it is my bio. Come and sign up and join Identity Evolution. We are going to go into depth in this container on how to do this, the concepts, the frameworks, and how to make it sustainable. Because there's no point in making a change and then it's not sustainable, right? That's no fun. So hope to see you in there, and I hope that this community live has helped, and I will speak to you in tomorrow's live. Bye.